Sugar cookie falls somewhere between a short dough pie crust and a shortbread. Pie crust is made when the butter is very cold and the fat is cut into the flour. Both shortbread and sugar cookies employ the creaming method, and the butter and all of the ingredients are at room temperature. The ingredients give us a clue as to how the cookie is going to taste, perform, and look. A shortbread dough has no leavener in it, a high percentage of fat and sugar, and oftentimes the starches are replaced with cornstarch, tapioca starch, or some 10X. These things prevent gluten from developing and make a shortbread very tender and finely textured. A sugar cookie is somewhere between a chewy cookie and a shortbread. The beginning phase of the creaming method is adding sugars to your fat. This is done very slowly, and a lot of care is taken to add a lot of air cells. With sugar cookie dough, we don't want to add a lot of air, so the sugar is added early and it's stopped short as soon as it's incorporated. After the creaming phase, the dries and wets are added alternately, ending with the dries. There's salt, baking powder, and AP flour mixed with egg. Whole egg. After each addition of ingredient and at the very end of mixing, you want to stop as soon as all of the ingredients are combined. And as you can see, when I turned the dough out of the bowl, there were still parts that were not incorporated. So by using the Silpat, which is a great tool for this sort of job, I am able to incorporate the dough and get it more cohesive. I use a French tapered rolling pin because it's comfortable for me. There's no such thing as the right rolling pin for a job. It's personal preference and skill level. By using a Silpat to incorporate the dough and roll it out, you do not have to add any additional flour. Any additional flour you add will toughen your final product. I rolled my dough out thicker than 1/4 inch. I really like a thick sugar cookie baked very lightly, but I went a little too far. It's very challenging to cut out, and while I'm only doing a few of these snowflake cookies, if you are doing a great number, this is going to be a very difficult and frustrating process. After I made the dough and sheeted it and stacked it, it got wrapped and put into the freezer. In order to use dough to bake it, it must be re-tempered in the refrigerator, not on the counter. You can rework the scraps, but this is no longer a first-tier product. It's a secondary product, either just for you or for something decorative. For me, making sugar cookie and gingerbreads at the same time creates a system that takes several days. These doughs go in and out of the refrigerator and the freezer and are taken very good care of, but they spend very little time on the countertop. The number one trick for sugar cookie dough is it needs to be cold. When you're cutting it and when you're baking it, that means the tray that you bake it on has to be cold. The dough has to be cold when you cut it so you can get nice sharp edges. And I either use a Silpat or 2 pans to bake my sugar cookies because I like the bottom to stay very light. When doughs are baked, you have to pay attention to size and thickness. Like goes on the same pan. No matter how many times you have to put cookies in the oven, they cannot be commingled, or you will get some that bake quickly and others that don't, and it will be frustrating and your end result will not be good. During the chilling, freezing, and decorating phase, you can commingle cookies, but not during baking. I am very adept at handling cookies that have been freshly baked, but even I start with the smallest ones to build a little bit of practice. Don't want to crack a cookie at this stage, but if you do, you can repair it with icing later. I'm working in real time somewhat, so these cookies are solidifying and will be iced in the morning for a second video tomorrow.